but they're like, I'm actually so much more acutely aware of what is provided for me and there's nothing.
Yeah.
So, and it's not anyone's fault. I think it's just the social norm that everyone brings something for the baby.
Yeah.
But there's nothing brought for the mother. And, and again, that's why the charity exists, because it's evident that the mother, unfortunately, is mostly forgotten. Hi everyone, welcome to No Place Like Home. My name is Larissa and I'm here with Jess.
Hello, everyone.
What are we chatting about today?
We are going to chat about something that's pretty epic that a lot of people don't know. And it's the fact that Home is a charity, a registered not-for-profit.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So it's really funny because I feel like this is one of the first things you and I spoke about. When we first met and chatted about me working for you, one of the first things that came up. And it's something that I mentioned to people a lot and that I've mentioned a lot over the past year and a half since we first met. But there's still a lot of people that don't realise that this space is a registered not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a bit of a perception that the space is only for people with a certain level of income, and that's definitely not what we are. I think if you go back to the episode where we talk about the statistics, you mentioned there that when you did that market research, you realised that 50% of people don't have private health insurance. And so that was a big turning point for you about wanting to make the space accessible to everyone, because we both know that these issues don't discriminate based on your income.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, even just to touch on the private health insurance part of it, it's interesting because, we're still having meetings and teeing up meetings with private health insurers to recognise postpartum care as a significant point in the whole pregnancy, birth, postpartum area. So at this point, even if you do have private health insurance, there's actually not a lot that is rebatable. But that's probably a different episode. So yes, Home is a trust and we have a not-for-profit, and the name, to get a bit technical, you have categories of charities. So you have benevolent institutions, you have all of these other categories, and we fall into a category which is the preventative health charity space. So that requires us to work in a preventative space and not in a treatment space. So if we were classed as any other sort of not-for-profit, then we would have had to have accepted a certain percentage of our guests to be diagnosed with postnatal depression and anxiety, or some other form of postnatal mental health issue. Obviously, postnatal depression and anxiety is the most common and known. So it was really important to me that we didn't want to, not that we didn't want to, but there's a lot that comes with working in a treatment space.
Well,
It's
it would be an entirely
clinical.
different business model, wouldn't it?
It would. It falls much more clinical, much more into a hospital space. And for me, I don't want women and parents to get to that point.
Yeah.
So it was fundamental, and, through the months and months and months that well, actually 12 months that it takes to register a charity and go through everything, these are all sort of the things that you need to tick off. So, there are a lot of charities, particularly, around the world and in Australia, and they're making it a bit more and more difficult to just go and create a charity because there are so many.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people use the charity for, tax evasion and whatnot.
Yeah, potentially.
So that makes sense that they're making it harder.
Yeah, so the other benefit is that as well, a huge benefit of being a charity is also to get a what they call a DGR status. So basically that allows you to accept any donation. Well, if you make a donation to a charity that is DGR, then anything over $2 is tax deductible. So again, they've decided to clamp down on that. So us receiving that was a huge win.
So for anyone listening at home who doesn't know what DGR status is, what does DGR stand for?
It is deductible gift recipients.
Yeah. So anyone, whether it's me, whether it's my mum in New Zealand, whether it's a buddy of your husband's, or someone we don't know, anyone can make a donation and it would be a tax write-off.
Anyone can make a donation. So you can make a donation directly through the website. So that's homb.com.au, and you just go to the charity section of our website and you can donate. And there's different options. Obviously, there's a customizable area. So if you want to donate a certain amount, and then there's other options. And then I think we've also got in there actually donating the value of a 4-night stay.
Yeah. And we have had
a sizable
donation.
Yeah, we had a $10,000 donation the week, well, actually a couple of days before we opened. So that has already gone to a family who stayed with us that was 100% supported. So they went through the process. So to go through the process of how you would apply, again, it's through the website, and you would email us, and the means testing criteria is all laid out on the website. So for both the 100% supported stay and the 50% supported stay.
That's something I wanted to touch on actually, because I think a lot of people don't realise that when we say 100% supported and 50% supported, what we mean is subsidised.
Yeah.
So your 100% supported stay means it's 100% subsidised. It's completely paid for by donations from very generous individuals. So someone that needs to stay here that doesn't have the financial means to be able to pay can come and stay and receive all the benefits of a 4-night stay here, but without the cost. Yeah. And equally, someone with a 50% supported stay it's a 50% subsidy. So
correct.
Just in case anyone didn't realise that, it doesn't mean the support level changes.
I just didn't.
Means it's the supported is equal to subsidy in this instance.
We just wanted to give a nicer reference point, I think, by saying supported.
Yeah.
And
it's all really clearly outlined on the website. We can possibly put a link in the show notes if anybody wants to have a read.
Yeah, definitely. That's all there, and the process of it has gone really well for us internally, and then also the feedback from people who have gone through the means testing process has been really easy and efficient for them. So it's the general information that you would have. So to qualify for 100% supported stay, it's means tested off the back of if you already qualify for the family tax benefit A or B, in accordance with the government, Australian government, then you would automatically qualify for 100% supported stay. And then, you send through some other bits of information, identification and all the rest of it. And then the 50% supported stay is a little different in its criteria. So there's, an amount of annual household income, and there's
assets.
A few other bits and pieces in there. But again, we've got 2 lovely families that are checking in, one next week and one the following week. And they're both on a 50% supported stay. So that $10,000 has been allocated between those 100% supported stay and 2 50% supported stays.
So that's 3 families we've been able to help.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is. It's just nice to be able to know that it's accessible to everyone. So that was the main reason why I created it as a charity because everyone needs to access this service, and not just people that can afford it. But, I think what we've certainly already seen with the people that have stayed is that all of that really flies out the window. So, in the space, all of those things just don't matter because everyone has actually been sharing their experiences, and no one knows who's paid, who hasn't, who's here 100%, 50%. Like, that's obviously just not common knowledge. But, from my perspective, knowing that, because, at times the staff don't even know that, it's really nice to see all of those perceived social barriers, if they were known, they're just non-existent. So we certainly had a scenario of, people sitting around the dinner table sharing a meal, husband and wife in both families, and just sharing their experience. So that has been a really big confirmation of all the work and energy that I put into creating the charity has certainly paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing because all of this is going towards reducing the goal of our, as we say time and time again, our goal is to reduce the instances of postnatal depression and anxiety. And if we can be, we don't want people to be at breaking point before they get here. We want this to just sort of, we want to change, and this is going to take generations, but we want to change the cultural norm. We want it to be, I mean, don't even get me started. I think I've spoken about this in another episode, but how much people spend on weddings. And it's not even like, even someone that's having a pretty low cost wedding will still spend, 20 grand, and it's, and it can be hard, and they have to save and save and save. And every cent goes towards paying for these people to come to their wedding. No one bats an eyelid. If you spend 20K, 100K, 300K, no one bats an eyelid at how much you're spending on a wedding.
Yeah.
But the minute you start to invest in your postpartum, people kind of look at you sideways. And I've even so I shared something about this on social media recently, and I had some people say, my parents were more than willing to give me money towards my wedding, but when I asked for money towards help for my postpartum, whether it was a cleaner or meal delivery or massage, I was looked upon like a failure. And it's like, no, your wedding is one day. And yeah, I get it, and it's important. But it's also a cultural expectation that we do this. And I think the cultural expectation of how we care for ourselves in our postpartum needs to shift drastically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think there's lots of instances where we can draw on those comparisons of where we spend money and where we don't. But, to change a narrative that is so deeply ingrained in society is really difficult.
Yeah.
So, the charity, I hope, brings around all of those opportunities of affordability to start to change that narrative. And also, I think what it does and what has started to show is that other not-for-profits within the postpartum space or birthing space or pregnancy space have been reaching out to us for support as well, because obviously being the new kid on the block in this space and the first of its kind in Australia, it's sparked a lot of attention throughout the industry. And, there are some incredible organisations that you just don't even know about. We are going to support and touch on those other charities that exist for, women who are pregnant and homeless and all of those facilities. We had some amazing women through midwives through here from the Women's Hospital, Royal Women's Hospital, and their outreach program. It's also for us really important to support other not-for-profits in that space.
Yeah.
And share the load of the real problems that are out there. It's very much not talked about enough. And I think that having the charity brings about a bit more conversation around it because we're reaching people and philanthropists that know that there's a problem, but there hasn't been an opportunity to give in this space because nothing has really existed in a tangible sense. Obviously, you've got Panda and Gidget Foundation and, you know, they're doing incredible things. But this is a very tangible, people come in and feel the space and, you know, we've had several philanthropists come through. So, yeah, it feels and the data also that we're already starting to gather around people who have stayed, even over the last, we've been open for a month now. But, and maybe when you listen to this, it might be a bit longer. But, you know, we're already getting that really great data out of when people are arriving to their experience while they're here, and then with our home to home program as well. So,
because it is really important. We're not like, we're not just welcoming people in, giving them a nice time and then sending them off. While they're here, we are empowering them with so many tools and so much knowledge. So everyone so far has gone home with so much in their tool belt.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's, you know, and I suppose with the charity as well, it provides an opening for partnerships to happen and sponsorships. So we've had some, I won't say who it is because we're still in talks, but we've had some bigger players in corporate Australia have their ears prick about what we're doing. And so, you know, it's a good news story for a lot of people to be able to potentially provide this as a employee benefit program. And, you know, so there's lots of opportunities around those sorts of avenues to, again, make it more accessible. I think the other thing I want to highlight as well is that if you do come in, say, on a 50% supported subsidised stay, there are other ways and means that we make it potentially be 100% non-financial for you. So if you qualify for the 50% supported stay and then you are in a environment where people want to also give and provide for that stay, we also have the gift vouchers on the website, and then they can also make a donation.
And this is also coming back to that cultural change that we're looking to implement. It's, you know, the amount of money that we say this a lot. I feel like we're going to get cancelled by some bonds or someone. Just the number of onesies that people get given, the number of things they don't need that they get given for a baby shower. And I've seen a lot of my doula clients, they have a kitty that people donate to rather than buying stuff that they don't need. And it's the same. People can donate to someone's postpartum fund and they can use that to stay here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of ways and means that we can approach it so that it doesn't feel financially burdensome on a family or somebody. And I suppose, you know, there's lots of things for baby. There's actually quite a few people giving birth around me at the moment, and they are even saying to me, if I didn't know about home, I would have just gone through this postpartum, like early postpartum after birth. I would have just gone through it being like, oh yeah, it's just, you know, my second, third baby, whatever. But they're like, I'm actually so much more acutely aware of what is provided for me, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's not anyone's fault. I think it's just the social norm that everyone brings something for the baby.
Yeah.
but there's nothing brought for the mother. And, you know, it's, and again, that's why the charity exists, because it's evident that the mother, unfortunately, is mostly forgotten.
Yep.
And it's very focused on the baby. So when those times of overwhelm and I don't know what I'm doing and this is too much come, then that's when it's just a medical space. It's like, well, how do we medically fix you?
Yeah.
When actually it might just be a whole lot of caring and nourishing that needs to happen. And I think that's where we make it accessible for that to happen.
Yep.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, homb.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Homb Postpartum.